Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my FXmovies.20 channel? Thank you so much. The crimson glow of the setting sun enveloped the hills surrounding the ranch, resembling a fiery tapestry against the diminishing light. Lily leaned against the barn door, clutching an antiquated camera that had long been forsaken. Her gaze was distant, fixed on the vacant expanse before her. That camera had once been integral to her identity, a fragment of her essence before she lost herself. Now, as it rested in her hands, it felt like a relic of forgotten aspiration stirring back to life. Moonlight, the white horse with a coat that shimmered silver under the waning daylight, stood silently in its stall. Its large dark eyes reflected the golden hues of dusk, occasionally shifting and emitting soft, faint sounds as if to draw Lily back into the present. However, her mind had wandered far, ensnared in a labyrinth of old memories and unnamed emotions. A faint sound disrupted the stillness behind her, the soft creak of footsteps on wood. She turned sharply, her breath catching in her throat. "Who is there?" she called, her voice quivering slightly, reverberating in the still barn. Yet no response ensued. Only the wind replied, whistling through the fissures in the wooden beams, bringing with it the coolness of the impending night. As her heartbeat stabilized and her eyes acclimated to the dim light, she saw him, Bash, leaning casually against one of the wooden pillars. His gaze was fixed on her, unwavering. "Why are you still out here so late?" His voice was low and smooth, tinged with curiosity but filled with quiet concern. Bash always had a way of appearing unexpectedly, making her feel as if he had been there all along, silently watching. "I don't know. I guess I just wanted to be here for a while," Lily replied with a faint smile, though it carried the weight of too many unspoken emotions. She stepped closer, his sharp penetrating eyes seeming to look right through her. He said nothing, but the intensity of his gaze stripped away every shield she had carefully built. The silence between them was not awkward. It was charged heavily with the things neither of them dared to say aloud. "You still have that camera?" Bash said suddenly, his eyes flicking to the weathered device in her hands. "It's like you're holding on to a piece of your past." His words were deliberate, each one brushing against a corner of her soul she had long tried to forget. "Sometimes the past is all I have," Lily mumbled, her voice soft yet imbued with everything else. "None of it feels like mine anymore." Her words lingered in the air, heavy with the pain of loss, akin to a scar that has healed superficially but remains sensitive beneath. Bash stepped closer, and as they drew nearer, only a breath remained between them. "Why don't you reclaim what you've lost?" he inquired, his tone a blend of challenge and invitation, urging her to liberate herself from the unseen restraints that confined her. Before Lily could reply, the deep rumble of a truck engine sliced through the tension. They both turned their heads toward the sound emanating from the dirt road leading to the ranch. The headlights penetrated the face of darkness, casting elongated, shifting shadows against the barn walls. It was Caleb's husband as his familiar truck approached slowly up the gravel path, its beams slicing through the stillness, illuminating the barn like an unwelcome spotlight. "He's home earlier than expected," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible and trembling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Bash said nothing, but his expression darkened, his posture stiffening. Caleb never returned unannounced, and this sudden arrival carried a sense of foreboding that neither of them could ignore. For a moment time seemed to halt. Lily's grip on the camera slid slightly in her hands, suddenly feeling heavier than ever. She could feel her pulse as Caleb's truck came to a stop, the engine shutting off with an ominous finality. The barn door creaked loudly on its hinges as Caleb pushed it open. The beam of his flashlight cut through the dim space, sweeping over the stalls before landing squarely on Lily's face. "Still out here?" Caleb's voice was calm, almost casual, but to Lily, it carried the weight of an unspoken accusation. She took a step back instinctively, her eyes darting toward Bash, but he remained still, his gaze unwavering. Caleb's arrival shattered the fragile sanctuary they had shared, leaving Lily standing in the middle of an unspoken storm. She could feel Bash's silent presence behind her, strong and steady, but his shoulders had tensed as if bracing for a blow. In that moment, everything seemed to shift. Caleb's light lingered on her face, his expression unreadable, and Lily, with her heart pounding in her chest, realized that the life she had so carefully constructed, the secrets she had buried, and the emotion she had tried to make of it could not remain hidden any longer. Lily sat quietly on the wooden steps of the house, the pale moonlight spilling across the open fields like a silken veil. In her hands, the old camera Bash had mentioned earlier rested heavily, as though it carried the weight of memories she had long buried. The gentle breeze rustled the dry grass and whispered through the trees, but her mind was elsewhere, drawn back to another time, another life she had left behind. Back then, when she was young and full of passion, the world seemed limitless, brimming with opportunity. Lily had been a rising star in photography, known for capturing raw, unfiltered moments of nature and humanity. Her photographs didn't just showcase scenes, they etched emotions into the viewers. The unspoken truths others often overlooked had been displayed in prominent galleries, the golden light illuminating each carefully framed piece. It was in one such gallery that she met Caleb. Caleb had been a young, ambitious man brimming with confidence and charisma. He had attended her exhibition, not only drawn by the art but also captivated by Lily herself, who purchased one of her most striking pieces, a photograph of an untamed field bathed in the dim glow of dusk. "It's like you," he said, standing before the image, beautiful, wild, and full of mystery. Those words had stirred something in Lily's heart. It wasn't long before their relationship bloomed into a whirlwind of passion. Caleb, with his steadfast determination, made her feel seen, cherished, and grounded in a way she hadn't known before. He convinced her to abandon the uncertainty of an artist's life to build a stable future with him. He painted vivid dreams of a big house, a serene ranch, and a life free from worry where their happiness would flourish uninterrupted. At the time, Lily had been young and brimming with faith and love. She agreed. She gave up everything: her career, her friends, and the bright lights of the art world. Moving to the ranch with Caleb felt like stepping into the promise of a new beginning. At first, it was everything fresh and hopeful. She learned to care for the horses, to tend the flowers, and to immerse herself in the quiet calm Caleb had promised. But over time, Lily realized that calm was not the same as fulfillment. Caleb's work began to consume him, pulling him further away. His business ventures demanded more of his attention, leaving her alone in the vast silence of the ranch. The life she had imagined became a hollow echo of what she had hoped for, and she began to feel the weight of everything she had given up. And then there was Bash. Lily was thinking back to the first time she encountered him during her final years in college, when she was still an idealistic, passionate young woman who believed in limitless possibilities and embodied a free spirit. An artist, a man who thrived on adventure and delighted in transcending boundaries, often quipped, "Life's merely a vast canvas, and the finest art emerges when one tears through it." Frank Bash was the first individual who made her feel genuinely unrestrained, liberated from rules or expectations. They shared exhilarating, carefree days camping in remote locations, pursuing the ideal light for their photographs, capturing the world in its unrefined, unfiltered splendor. Bash was a fire, untamed, and like fire, he could not remain in one place. When Lily opted for the stability that Caleb provided, Bash vanished without a word, leaving behind an emptiness in her heart, a persistent ache she had never confessed, not even to herself. Now, years later, he re-entered her life with the force of a tempest, resurrecting the memory she had endeavored so diligently to forget. Seated in the tranquility of the night, Lily pondered whether she had made the correct decision in abandoning her former life in Bash. The stability she currently experienced was secure. However, it failed to provide her with the happiness she had previously anticipated, conflicting with his unrestrained nature and unwavering desire for freedom. This freedom served as a reminder of her past. Her former self, a woman unencumbered by responsibility or obligation. The sound of hooves on the dirt outside the barn interrupted her contemplation. She lifted her gaze, drawn to Moonlight, who stood patiently in the paddock, its large, curious eyes watching her as if asking what was on her mind. Slowly, Lily rose, walking toward the horse. When her hand rested on Moonlight's soft silken coat, a surge of emotion swept through her. Something within her was shifting, awakening, as though Bash's reappearance had blown away the dust that had settled over her soul. But deep down, Lily knew this change wouldn't come easily. Bash wasn't just a ghost from her past. He was a part of the person she had buried. Now his return wasn't merely a reminder. It was a challenge for her to face what she had lost, and to decide once again what she truly wanted from her life. The golden hues of the setting sun stretched across the fields, casting a warm glow over the distant hills. Lily stood by the fence, her gaze following moonlight as the horse galloped freely across the open paddock. The white horse seemed like a symbol of liberty, something Lily had always longed for, although she had never genuinely owned. The sound of footsteps trailing behind her drew her from her reverie. Bash appeared, exuding his customary demeanor of calm assurance, though his eyes sparkled with subdued apprehension. He positioned himself beside her, leaning nonchalantly against the fence, his shoulder almost touching hers. "Why do you consistently observe the moonlight?" Bash said, his tone low and steady yet inquisitive, as if delving into a deeper aspect of her. "It seems you see a reflection of yourself in him," Lily admitted with a weak, unenthusiastic chuckle, perhaps due to the notion that he possesses something she lacks: freedom. She then turned to face Bash. Her gaze was remote yet imbued with defiance, as if challenging him to dissent. Yet Bash refrained from doing so. He simply nodded in silent acknowledgement, conveying a significance far surpassing mere words. "You need not endure this existence, Lily," Bash stated, his voice both grave and resolute. "You are not obligated to confine yourself to a cage merely because you believe it to be your sole refuge." His words pierced through the meticulously erected barriers she had established around herself. However, before she could reply, Bash had already turned and walked away. Lily stood motionless near the barn, where he had been attending to antiquated equipment, engulfed in a tempest of unarticulated emotions and thoughts. Later that night, Caleb called to inform her that he would remain in the city for several additional days due to an unforeseen meeting. Lily replied with a terse, "Okay," before ending the call. She had become accustomed to his prioritization of work over all else, including her. However, tonight, the desolation of the house felt more pronounced than ever. The silent rooms and oppressive darkness seemed to engulf her. Entirely unable to endure the stillness, Lily donned a sweater and ventured outside, instinctively drawn to the barn, a place that felt more like home than the house ever had. Moonlight perched on his stool, his large dark eyes shimmering in the dim light as if welcoming her. This time, however, she was not alone. Bash was present, standing near a small oil lamp, meticulously repairing a broken bridle. He looked up upon noticing her, a faint smile illuminating his face. "Can't you sleep?" Bash inquired gently, with a polite yet inquisitive tone. Lily shook her head and approached Moonlight, her hand gliding over the horse's sleek coat, uncertain of her reasons for being there. An inner compulsion had driven her. "Do you consistently work this late?" Lily asked, her tone airy yet laced with apprehension, attempting to divert the dialogue from the tumult of emotions constricting within her. Bash shrugged, his gaze resting on her slightly longer than customary. "I prefer working in tranquility. What about you? What draws you to the night?" Lily glanced upward. Her eyes met his in a moment of tacit comprehension. The quiet between them was not awkward but rather electric, as if an invisible thread was drawing them nearer. Bash set down the bridle and took a deliberate stride toward her. She remained stationary, but her heart accelerated, not due to fear but from an uncontrollable emotion she believed she did not merit. "Lonely," Bash stated, his voice slow and steady, as if apprehensive about disrupting the delicate moment shared between them. "You deserve so much." Lily felt her breath hitch. His words penetrated a realm within her that Caleb had never accessed. She wished to dispute him, to assert that all was well and that she was fine, yet the words eluded her. Instead, she leaned toward him as if compelled by fate. In that instant, Bash raised a hand, tenderly cradling her face. Lily closed her eyes, unable to resist, fully aware that she was crossing a boundary from which she might never return. But with the warmth of his hand on her skin and the intensity in his gaze, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt seen, understood, and for the first time in what seemed like forever, alive. The kiss that followed wasn't planned. It simply happened as naturally as breathing. It wasn't just a connection between two people. It was the breaking of chains that had bound her for too long. Lily didn't think about Caleb or the consequences. All she could think about was the undeniable truth that in that fleeting moment, she felt like herself again. A sudden noise in the distance shattered the fragile stillness, pulling them both back to reality. Lily jerked away, her eyes wide, and Bash stepped back as well, though his eyes remained locked on her, steady and reassuring. "Lily," he whispered, his voice soft, almost pleading, but she shook her head and turned, hurrying out of the barn without another word, leaving him behind. In the suffocating tension of what they had just shared, as she ran back toward the house, her mind swirled with fear and confusion. She knew she had just stepped into dangerous territory, but at the same time, she couldn't deny the spark that had been ignited within her. A fire she wasn't sure she wanted or could extinguish. Lily sat in the kitchen, her hand absent-mindedly stirring a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. The faint light from the overhead lamp did little to dispel the oppressive weight pressing down on her chest. Caleb had returned the night before, and from the moment he walked through the door, something about him had shifted. Gone was the usual indifference, replaced by a quiet, scrutinizing presence, as if he were trying to see through her, searching for something she was desperate to keep hidden. "Is there something you want to tell me?" Caleb's voice cut through the silence, low and sharp like a blade slicing the air. Lily flinched, lifting her head to meet his gaze. He stood by the door, his tie slightly askew, his briefcase still in hand, but his eyes never left her. "What do you mean?" she asked, forcing her voice to remain steady, though she could feel her composure unraveling. She knew exactly what he was getting at, the truth simmering just beneath the surface of his words. Caleb stepped forward slowly, placing his briefcase on the table with a heavy thud that made her jump. "Do not feign ignorance, Lily. You have altered recently, frequently at the barn, consistently evading me." Caleb eventually spoke Bash's name like an accusation, a blade directed at her. Lily felt the blood in her veins congeal. "What is the status of Bash?" she inquired, playing ignorance. However, the tremble in her voice revealed her true feelings. She was losing control. Caleb leaned on the table, his fists pressing into the wood as he moved closer, his eyes aflame with an unprecedented wrath. "I hired a private investigator, Lily. I possess photographs of you and Bash in the barn," he stated in a low voice, menacing. Each syllable struck her as if the world were falling around her. She sprang to her feet, the chair screeching against the floor. "You followed me," she yelled, her voice trembling beneath the burden of her anxiety. Caleb straightened, his eyes icy and unyielding. "I asserted my rights. This is our marriage. Did you believe I would permit your betrayal without consequence?" Her heart raced violently, threatening to burst. She struggled to articulate a defense, unable to convey the truth. She had betrayed him, not merely through actions but within her heart, severing pieces of her soul from him. For years she had felt no connection to Caleb, no sense of partnership. Yet now, under the weight of his wrath, she comprehended the extent to which everything had spiraled out of control. A sudden knock at the door shattered the tension, causing both to flinch. Caleb's eyes narrowed with suspicion as he approached the door and opened it, netted to reveal Bash, whose expression was calm, yet his eyes brimmed with determination. "I need to talk to you," Bash stated, his tone steady but urgency flickering beneath the surface. Caleb regarded Bash as if he were confronting his most formidable adversary. "You've got some nerve showing up," he retorted. Caleb spat, his voice imbued with caution, yet Bash remained resolute. "I am not here to dispute. I am here regarding the pallor of Lily's complexion." She remained immobilized, her eyes flitting about between Caleb and Bash, unable to comprehend the impending events. Caleb turned back to her, his visage deepening with each passing moment. "So it's true," he uttered in a low, angry tone. "You won't even deny it, will you?" "Suffice, Caleb," Bash interjected, entering before Caleb could obstruct him. He placed himself between Caleb and Lily, as if to protect her. "You do not comprehend her. You have never genuinely perceived her essence. She does not merit this." Tears brimmed in Lily's eyes, yet she resolutely withheld them from cascading down her cheeks. She was reluctant to exhibit vulnerability, particularly in the presence of the two men who appeared to be contending for fragments of her identity that she was uncertain still belonged to her. "Stop it," she murmured, her voice faltering. Neither of them heeded the request to cease. Caleb advanced toward Bash, his countenance reddened with rage. "You believe you possess greater familiarity with her than I do? Do you believe you own any entitlement to be present and express this?" Caleb's voice escalated, the tension reaching a boiling point, yet Bash remained unfazed. I am not here for rights. I am here because she merits happiness. The room became unbearably tense, as if a bomb were poised to detonate. Lily stood at the center, her heart fracturing under the weight of responsibility and the allure of desire, torn between the life she had constructed and the one she had forsaken. Uncertain of her course of action, she recognized that when this night concluded, nothing would remain unchanged. She remained motionless, her trembling hands grazing Moonlight's sleek coat. The familiar scent of wood and sweat lingered in the air, yet the atmosphere felt more oppressive than ever. Bash's final words echoed in her mind, resonating like a bell that would not cease ringing. I am here because you deserve to be elated. His remarks conveyed a profound sincerity, a force that dismantled everything she believed about herself. Caleb departed, not in forgiveness but in retreat. He could not endure remaining nor witness further anguish. His final glance conveyed a blend of anger and heartbreak, as if Lily had not only fractured his heart but also the meticulously crafted image of the ideal wife he had endeavored to uphold for years. Before his exit, he delivered a singular statement, cold and incisive enough to immobilize her. You must determine your life from this point forward. The barn door creaked open and Bash entered. Steps soft yet laden with an undeniable weight. Initially, he remained silent, simply observing her with a deep, unwavering gaze, as if he could penetrate the layer she had desperately constructed around herself. Are you okay? He finally inquired, his voice low yet imbued with quiet concern. Lily did not respond immediately. She turned to meet his gaze, realizing he awaited a signal, a word, anything to indicate her readiness to approach him. However, uncertainty enveloped her, her emotions entangled like a tightly wound ball of yarn. I don't know, she whispered, her voice scarcely audible. I don't know what to do. Bash stepped closer, his movements deliberate and unhurried, his presence exuding comfort without pressure. You don't have to know right now, he said gently. You just have to act. What factors contribute to your sense of identity? I am not here to compel you to make a choice. I am here because I desire your happiness. His words elicited tears from Lily's eyes. For the first time in years, she felt permitted to be vulnerable and imperfect. Bash raised a hand but refrained from touching her, leaving the decision entirely to her. She could determine whether she wished for him to remain. Bash, Lily began, but her words faltered as she was uncertain of what to articulate next. She was uncertain whether she could provide him with what he desired and whether she was prepared to relinquish everything she had once shared with Caleb, despite their relationship now resembling merely fragmented remnants of a long-dissolved connection. Bash offered a faint, bittersweet smile imbued with understanding. I will go, he stated softly, but if you need me, I'll be here. He turned and walked slowly out of the barn, leaving Lily alone with Moonlight and the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. She stood there, watching his figure disappear into the dim light outside. A part of her wanted to run after him, to call him back, but another part of her held her in place, tethering her to the past like an invisible chain. She couldn't, at least not yet. That night, Lily lay in her empty bedroom, staring at the ceiling. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the chill of something new. She couldn't sleep, but she didn't want to close her eyes either. Everything had changed, and she wasn't sure if she had the courage to change with it. The next morning, Caleb was gone. He left no explanations, only a set of keys and a small note on the kitchen table. The ranch is yours. Lily picked up the note, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness settle in her chest. She stepped outside into the soft light of dawn spilling over the fields, painting the dewy grass in shades of gold. Moonlight stood in the paddock, his large eyes fixed on her as though he understood something she didn't. Lily grabbed her old camera and walked toward the horse. She lifted the camera, looking through it. As she peered through the viewfinder, a flicker of familiarity. It ignited within her a spark of hope and a semblance of freedom. Uncertain if she would ever return to Bash or if Caleb would ever forgive her, she recognized that her journey must commence with self-reflection. The camera emitted a soft click as she captured her first photograph in years. In that ephemeral moment, Lily sensed that this could signify the inception of a new chapter, one she would author independently, despite the myriad of unanswered questions and uncertainties that lay ahead.